This video is about CELPIP reading part 4, which is officially called as Reading for Viewpoints. That title is not decorative. It tells you exactly what the exam wants. This task is about opinions, perspective, attitudes, agreement versus disagreement, tone, and intention. So, this is not information matching like part 3 that we have discussed in the last video. This is mental comparison. Okay, so in part 4, you will see one topic often like social, workplace, community, or policy related topics, and multiple short text, usually 3 or 4. And each text is written by a different person. Each person has a different viewpoint. Then your answer, multiple choice questions, questions asking who thinks what, questions asking like who thinks what, who agrees, who disagrees, who would support something, so many things you will be getting. And this is why part 4 feels confusing. In part 3, if we have noticed, answers live inside paragraphs, right? But in part 4, answers live inside people's minds. You're not just reading facts, you're reading their attitudes and intentions. That's why good vocabulary alone does not save you here. Okay? So, in part 3, self-help expects few things from you, very important. Track who says what. Yes, it is your duty to track who's saying what and understand the degree of agreement, whether they are completely agree or slightly agree, slightly disagree, all these things, and separate strong opinion versus mild opinion. You need to identify the difference between these two, whether their opinion is strong or it's just a mild opinion. And you have to notice for the tone words, words such as concerned, supportive, cautious, critical, optimistic, all these words. Okay. And remember, self does not expect you to judge who is right, agree personally, and it does not expect you to bring outside knowledge. Your opinion is irrelevant here. Okay? So, part 4 tests comparative reading, not what does the passage say, but how do these viewpoints relate to each other. This means like you're constantly comparing voices, not reading them in isolation. Okay? And the reason behind why most people fail in part 4 is the first reason I can tell is reading too fast. People rush because texts are short. Big mistake. Don't do that. Short text or dense. Every sentence carries opinion. And second reason is remembering the content, not the people. Yes, this is very common. Students remember ideas, but they forget who said this. That's deadly in part 4. And ignoring the tone, that is also one of the important mistakes students do. They read words, but they miss the hesitation, concern, support, or opposition. Self-help loves testing the tone. Okay, so your mindset must be I'm building a comparison table in my head. Every time you read a viewpoint, you have to ask is this person negative, positive, or mixed? What do they support? What do they oppose? How strong is their opinion? All these things you have to ask yourself. Okay? And I'm going to give you a complete strategy for part 4. This is non negotiable, so you have to follow it exactly. If you have a pen and notepad, please make a note of these steps. First one, before reading viewpoints, you have to quickly look at all questions. You have to notice the patterns like who agrees, who would support, who is most concerned about, which two people share a similar view. Now your brain knows what relationships to track. Got it? And step 2, read one viewpoint at a time, slowly. For each person, you have to read carefully. Stop after finishing, and you can summarize in one sentence in your head. Example, speaker A supports the idea but worries about cost. That sentence is gold. And step 3, pay attention to tone words. Words like however, although, concerned, optimistic, skeptical, cautious. So these words change the answer, right? CELPIP uses tone more than vocabulary. Difficulty here, okay? You have to pay attention to all these type of words. And step 4, answer by comparison, not memory. Yes. Never answer. I think person B said something like this. No. You have to answer appropriately with exact information stating like person B clearly supports X but rejects Y, which matches this option. So proof based thinking only allowed here. So if you see wrong options, okay, if you want to find out any wrong options that often try to mix two people together, or it will try to exaggerate someone's opinion, or sometimes the options could be like ignoring hesitation words. Sometimes it use absolute language words such as strongly opposes, fully supports. Okay, so please be conscious when you are looking for these type of words, and usually the correct options are very precise, balanced, and emotionally accurate. If an option sounds too extreme, then you have to question it. Okay, so let's move on to an example here. This one is about the topic, should cities limit private car use in downtown areas? So we have four speakers information here: speaker A, speaker B, speaker C, and speaker D. So you can pause the video, try to read all these speakers' opinions by yourself, and then try to apply the strategies. We'll move on to the questions. So remember, but when you are doing it in the exam, you have to do it in that way. First, you have to just take a look at the questions and then come back to the passage. But since we are just doing an example, I'm going this way. Speaker A, I support limiting private car use in city centers because traffic congestion has become unbearable. Public transportation systems are improving, and encouraging their use could reduce pollution. However, the city must ensure that alternatives are reliable before implementing strict restrictions. And Speaker B, while reducing traffic is important, limiting car use could negatively affect small businesses. Many customers rely on cars for convenience, and fewer visitors may hurt local economies. I believe the focus should be on improving traffic flow rather than restricting access. Speaker C, environmental concerns should be the top priority. Car emissions significantly contribute to air pollution, and limiting their use downtown is a necessary step. Although some inconvenience is unavoidable, long term benefits outweigh short term discomfort. And Speaker D, I understand the environmental argument, but such policies often ignore people with limited mobility. Until cities provide inclusive transportation options, restricting car use could create unfair barriers for certain groups. So let's move on to the questions here. For the first question, who supports limiting car use but expresses concern about implementation? The options are given, and the right option for question 1 is option A, speaker A, right? Because he supports limiting car use, but he says the city must ensure so and so concern about readiness. Others, if you have taken speaker B or speaker C or D, they opposes restrictions, they fully supports no hesitation, and they focuses on accessibility, not implementation. Okay. And for the second question, who is most concerned about economic impact? Again, let's move back to the passage. So this is speaker B, because he talks about small businesses, mention fewer customers, and focuses on economy. If you see other speakers like A, who is concentrating on traffic and transport, and C is concentrating on environment, and D is concentrating on accessibility. Okay, so option B, speaker B, is the right option. And question 3, which speaker believes environmental benefits justify inconvenience? So that one is speaker C, because here he admits the inconvenience and he says benefits outweigh discomfort. Okay, that's classic self-help phrase. So here we have used the strategy like looking for concession plus justification. And the fourth question is, who's primarily worried about fairness and accessibility? Primarily, of course, speaker D. He mentions limited mobility and he talks about barriers, right? So that is clearly accessibility and fairness. Got it? So self-help reading part 4 is not about speed. It is about control. If you slow down slightly, track people carefully, respect tone, this section becomes predictable, not scary. So that's all for today's video. Kindly like, share, and subscribe for more self-help tips. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.